everybody, and welcome to AI People. Today we're talking to Barbara Johnson, who is COO and co-founder at Kortical, who are an AutoML and MLOps platform. Greetings, Barbara.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. So we always start off the podcast by asking you to make some predictions about the AI industry as a whole. So just to kick that off, so when we think about humans and AI collaborating in terms of work, where do you see that being in 5 years' time and then maybe in 15 years' time?
Yeah, so we are bullish on AI agents. And I know everyone's talking about this year being the year of the AI agent, but in essence, they're still quite embryonic and not necessarily fully fledged in the way that we can see them developing over the next 5 years. So essentially, we can just see AI agents taking over the grunt work, and then we'll see the humans being able to do what we do best in terms of human to human, empathy, nuance, sarcasm, any of those great things, telling a good joke. So I think we will see kind of skills shift, and in terms of all of the big analytic roles and kind of data to data points, that'll all be swallowed up by AI agents, and we'll just have a much more, I guess, hopefully fulfilled working life where we'll get to do what we do best and we'll let the AI do what it does best.
So do you think that's going to have a big impact on like that outsourcing industry? Because obviously a lot of these kind of more admin-y kind of grunt tasks, there are kind of huge industries built off the back of that. So, presumably that's going to be a major area of disruption.
For sure. Yes, I could see anything that has to do with, answering questions or like doing like a full task of a role at the moment that might be slightly more admin heavy. So someone who's maybe like, sending invoices, who's checking POs, who's then administrating approvals, all those type of things could be done within an AI agent, and all that unstructured data can be very well interpreted. So I definitely see all the kind of more admin outsource roles, but also you can see things that are maybe quite well paid at the moment. So in terms of potentially tax professionals or potentially consultant advice and strategic advice, and that can mung huge amount of data and make real sense of it and come up with some great strategies. That can all be done by AI agents over time as well, and they've really plugged into how you can join up those kind of thought processes and workflows. You can do that all with AI agents in the coming years. So yeah, it will impact kind of very high knowledge ones as well as more, I'd say, admin ones as well.
Yeah, okay. And from your conversations kind of internally with your team and kind of externally with kind of customers and events, like how close do you think we are to AGI?
Well, some people are really bullish, so even within our company, and saying that, Sam Altman is kind of predicting it closer than we all can really feel now.
Yeah.
But, I think maybe AGI is probably a bit further away than we all kind of maybe predict. But in terms of useful AI, I think that is getting closer. So you think autonomous vehicles, now we've basically got, Elon Musk as vice president. Essentially, what do you think that's going to happen to all of the kind of AI that he's got with robotics and autonomous vehicles? So that'll be interesting to see how well that pushes forward and how we might use AI in healthcare or more kind of maybe conservative roles before that could really do with the productivity push and the efficiency gains. Where will that land? And I think that's quite exciting as well, as not just maybe in terms of how we see kind of ChatGPT and how you could expand that, but actually robotics and in infrastructure, and maybe how we then actually produce goods within the UK, potentially you kind of lease robots to do a bit of work. I think that, all of these things are going to come out to the fore in the next 5 years, which will be quite an interesting space.
And how do you see AI shaping the global economy? Like, do you see it leading to more wealth inequality, or do you think it's going to narrow gaps in opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation we have a lot. I think, in the short term, hopefully what we're going to see is the productivity gains that, especially for the UK, that we need to grow our economy. Our economy is so stagnant. And actually, anything that can make us more efficient and more productive is going to be a positive thing overall in the short term. So that's where you can kind of see that going. Where it goes long term in terms of, will energy be free? Will we be able to choose whether we want to work or not? This whole idea of universal basic income. That is, far more kind of a policy-driven, agenda. But in terms of could it actually happen? yes. That's kind of the feeling. The technology feels like it's in the infancy of being able to deliver that type of kind of experience for the world, and what that means for our children and what they learn and how they interact with the world is going to be totally different. But I think in terms of human nature, we haven't changed over millions of years, and so
Mm.
I guess we still want to grow and learn and enjoy community and service. So I think we might shape just more interesting roles for ourselves. So I just don't see us just sitting on the couch doing nothing. I can see
Playing
us
games,
actually,
yeah.
yeah. I think that's what people have in their head, is like, we're just going to sit and be a lazy nation. And of course, there's going to be a cohort that might, but there's a whole cohort of people who want to better themselves. Like, how many podcasts, like we're on one, like how many podcasts do we all listen to try and help influence and grow our mind. Imagine if you can do that, without that, and having children, imagine spending a lot more time with them and expanding their mind. And yeah, how we'll see travel. We just saw the boom supersonic flight, test flight go. If we can travel around the world much quicker, what will that do for our interest in our brains, and how much more exciting will life be? So yeah, the technology advancements are really exciting, and of course there could be some negative trade-off, and I am definitely in the AI bubble, so I'm in the more positive world.
I was going to
But
say, definitely got
yeah.
that tech optimism vibe coming off. So.
Yeah. That's just my nature, I think, as well. But I think it is a really exciting time, and I'm like really excited also by the fact that the UA is kind of not talking about safety and regulation around AI. It is talking about how we can expand and get onto that AI race. So I think there's a lot of optimism to have around it. But yes, over time we are going to have to think about how that is, it impacts people, and is it all a net benefit, and is it hopefully it's not just going to this America's pockets. We have a UK booming AI industry ourselves, and that we can then kind of keep that tax income within the UK, and we can grow our own economy off the back of it, is definitely the ideal.
Yeah, okay. So normally, like, the final prediction I ask is around what people see as being like the next jaw drop moment in AI. But I thought, given the release of DeepSeek last week, I feel like
Yeah.
that is potentially like a jaw drop moment. So I thought I'd just ask you about that instead. So what's your take on that release last week?
I think it's encouraging for us in the UK. I think if you're in the US, you might have a different view on it, going, we spent all this money building this models and we open sourced it, and then somebody else just jumped in. I think in the short term, nobody really wants to give their data to China. I totally understand that. And so I don't think it's going to have a massive impact. But I think what it shows the UK is we can get into the AI race. We can own our own LLMs. We can keep our data within the UK and still have the power of it. The other great news is the cost. I mean, while we can't believe everything that comes out of China, I mean,
Mm.
you can just see it probably has cost them a lot less at a fraction of the price, and it is delivering as good as ChatGPT 4. I wouldn't say it's probably as their complex models. It's not there yet, but in terms of kind of day-to-day chat functionality, it's there. So cost is going to be an issue over time. We are going to use these things. At the moment, we're not using them millisecond to millisecond to do tasks. But as I talked around, kind of this AI workflow and this AI agentic approach is going to have to do a lot more tasks. It's going to be a lot more AI heavy. And so cost is going to come into it. And at the moment, it's like human versus tech. It's kind of like, oh, a no-brainer. But when it comes tech versus tech, actually having a cheaper price at cost efficiency is going to be huge. And so that's where we're going to deliver ROI. And it's really encouraging to think, actually, now maybe if we get £10 million, that would well be within a VC's round, and to get ourselves our own LLM and how we could, become part of that conversation is really, really exciting. So I think it's a good thing overall. I think people are probably going to be a bit nervous that it's come from China, but I think we can see the application here in the UK.
Yeah, okay. So before we jump into Kortical, could you just give us a little bit of a background on yourself? Particularly interested in kind of your experience growing up, and what kind of led you from Coca-Cola to the AI industry.
So growing up, I had a crazy childhood. Went country to country with my dad's job. He's an engineer, and he packed us up as a family and took us with us to places like Libya and Abu Dhabi. And Abu Dhabi was not what it is now, and the States. And we just had a really interesting, I guess, childhood and exposure to the world that I'm sure has stood with us. And if someone was to psychoanalyze it, it's probably like why we decided we could set up our own company and take that challenge on. But in the real world, it's definitely a kind of more nuanced. And I guess from my side is I didn't come from a traditional dev or AI research role, but my two co-founders are. And my kind of skill set from Coca-Cola was really, I was in an innovation team. We were procuring a lot of tech, and I kind of really understood the sales process from a buyer's point of view. And then Andy, who's my brother, and hence the traveling the world thing, both of us were always talking around like how we could set up our own company. And we came up with all these kind of, dating websites and like a social network before Facebook was there. But of course, we didn't really apply it. So we were having loads of fun in our 20s. But then as kind of time kind of meandered on, it was like, okay, he's building AI in finance. He met up with Alex, who was doing deep research in AI. And the two of them were kind of getting some traction in 2016, 2015 around finance and AI. And then I was off on maternity leave from Coke with my baby. And they were like, can you jump on this call and help us with this commercial discussion? Or, hey, what do you think about us going in this direction? And I just started, coming more and more into it. And I started to learn really about how you could apply AI. So these guys are amazing, technical capabilities, but we're talking to people who aren't technical. So when you think about what your skill set is, it's like, can you bridge those two gaps? And over time, I didn't have to understand what area under the curve meant. I didn't have to know what a deep neural net, how it was built, but I did have to understand how we could apply, your data and actually what the output of a prediction or, some kind of natural language processing automation could be. And I got that quite quickly. And then that became my role within the company, was to try and help be the commercial and operation side of it, to try and help us talk to customers and to build that kind of sales profile. So, from your world is you have a champion and how we can get that proof point, how we can build that trust, how we can then actually sell into a wider audience, which is like the senior manager, also IT, maybe the data ops person, as well as that business owner. And we kind of started learning that quite quickly, and enterprise sales is where we kind of really landed. And I think that's kind of the mesh of skills that we had as a team and as a founding team that got us to where we are now. So yeah, it's been a journey, but I definitely think no one should dismiss what their skill set are. Just even observing within your role, like no one say innovation, you should go into AI potentially, maybe now. Back in those days, I was doing e-commerce, like that was a big deal, and so I think, just look and see where your skill sets are and where your passions are. And if you're interested in a space, you'll quickly pick it up. And now, there's access to so much information. So, if you're an AE or if you're in, a marketing role like I was to start, you can get yourself into these other roles if you've kind of got the interest to take the time to learn something about this space and become an expert. And then over time, you find your voice within it, and it's like a really cool place to be. So I think definitely an experience.
Do you want to kind of introduce Kortical and kind of tell us a bit about the business and what you do?
Yeah, so Kortical has kind of got two strings to its bow now. So we started as an ML ops kind of AI acceleration platform. And essentially what we do is we can take your data and we use AI to create AI, and we build you the best model, and we can explain it, which is really helpful for those sectors that are risk averse. And we can then deploy really easily, which is a whole new skill, as we talked about, like you've got ML engineers and DevOps, and that's a whole different side to the data science who builds models. And then we can retrain your models really easily based on the apps that we have within our platform. So it's a whole infrastructure that sits around the end-to-end of deploying really awesome, accurate models. And we do that for things like product recommendations for Charlotte Tilbury. It could be personalizing marketing for car finance in Volvo and MG. So it's quite a broad reach. And then the other side of it that we've kind of cottoned onto is the AI agent approach, which I talked about. And that is really taking workflows and processes and automating them through large language models. And that's all hosted on our platform as well, with really easy to use UIs. And it means that more business owners can kind of take that. And things we're doing around that are like with Reed, we're doing job posting automation, email automation, and a lot of kind of the admin side of their roles as recruiters. And we're taking that and kind of using AI to help facilitate that. And they're saving, years of man hours with that. So it's already, we can see the power of them even at the infancy that they're at.
So are they kind of pre-built agents for specific processes, or are you kind of talking to a client, identifying a process within their business and then kind of building that agent for them? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have, I guess, our kind of off the shelf would be more the kind of chat, like I say, kind of a Shopify chatbot that's all AI enabled. But then, you're right. The other side is that we would bespoke build something based on those clients' needs.
So one of the kind of major challenges with AI models is the difficulty in kind of maintaining and kind of updating them. Yeah. So how do you address that challenge of managing different model versions and kind of making sure that they remain kind of effective in production over time?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the core strengths of having the platform is that we can quickly see what version we're on. We can quickly test into UAT, so we don't have to put things into production. You can have the same setup that you have on the developer side into your AI models. So we can see if we retrain it on the last 3 months of data, the last 6 months, the last 3 years, we can see what the impact has. So it is really key. If you think we're working with the car finance people, EV cars and interest rates are totally different in the past few months than they have been, or in the past year than they have in the past, 6 years. So how we use what data and what timeframes we use is really important. And the platform lets us quickly experiment, so it can run it automatically, and we can then quickly see what the scores are, see if there's an improvement, and then we can track that all within the platform, and we can quickly roll back to a model if the one in UAT isn't as successful. And that is a really big kind of part of the workflow that we have automated within the platform. And then it can alert you to see if there's data drift, to see if the performance has gone off, and yeah, you can come back and then see how you want to retrain that data and deploy it. So yeah, that all of that really, I guess, laborious task and stuff is all housed within the platform, and it's so super successful at helping empower data scientists make the right decisions.
And within your customers, who's using the platform? Is this just purely for the kind of tech side of the business, or a kind of non-tech sort of business users using the platform as well?
I'd say on the AI agent side, there would be far more non-technical people using it. That is that side. I think on the more ML side, you do have to understand, while they're not, I'd say necessarily, not everyone's a trained data scientist, they do have to understand like area under the curve or F1 score, like what are they really looking at, and what are the trade-offs between, let's say, a false positive. And I think that is where a bit of knowledge comes in. It's not to say that we definitely train people who don't, but that you have to have an interest in that. So like as a layperson just coming in, I wouldn't say that that's like a natural place to start, but it is totally possible. But I would think definitely having more of a technical voice within ML is super useful for that side of things. But from the business side of things, you can quickly check, is that responding right? Is that accurate, or how I want the LLM to work? And if not, maybe I can change it. So I think that is just a lot more easier from a business point of view, but it is doable.
Yeah, okay. And could you just kind of take one kind of success story, if you like, with one of your customers, and just kind of walk us through like the use case and kind of how Kortical sort of streamlines that kind of ML lifecycle?
Yeah, so if we take the car finance, for example, what we're doing is we're ingesting all different types of data sets. It could be historical, it could be how they've interacted with the platforms that they've got, it could be what the price of cars are, what the availability of stock is. And we ingest all that data, and then we create things like the right time to contact them. It could be the next best car that they should have. It could be when is the right time to, propensity side, or, should they have an EV? And all of those kind of predictions are they're fed into their CRM, and then they're able to either automate when they send out the communications to them, or they can then let the dealers decide to build a campaign based on those the flags, and then they can send out, if they've got to target new EV customers, that they don't just target their full database, so they actually personalize it right to the people who will have a higher propensity to sign up to renew into an EV. So it's kind of a life cycle of that. And then of course, when we get the outcome, like did they sign up, did they not sign up, we can then retrain the models, and then we can kind of see what do they go into, were we correct, were we not correct, and then keep that really fresh. And so then we're able to increase the productivity and the accuracy over time.
So, obviously for AI builders, there's like a growing tech stack at the moment. So we've kind of got the development platforms like MLOps platforms, like LLM eval tools, AI safety and security and guardrails and things like that. So where do you see Kortical sort of fitting into that ecosystem, and kind of how do you think MLOps is going to evolve in kind of the coming years?
Yeah, I kind of see it getting closer to the business operators. I mean, already it is, I could see, but I think then it's like, how do we get more insights from the outputs going in, so that then they can make bigger decisions going forward? So at the moment, for example, you can then kind of build maybe pen portraits based on them, and you could then use that for maybe broader marketing targeting. For example, you're going to run maybe outdoor campaigns, etc. So I think you'll see AI sitting within the bigger ecosystem a lot more, because it's able to kind of give a lot more insights and information to help make bigger commercial decisions. And I think also being able to join up data sources more readily than you can now, and question it. So you could then kind of stick it all into what's called like a RAG or a knowledge base, and then ask the LLM to help build you those insights that you need. And I think from a senior management level, they're so used to kind of dictating what they think the standard reporting templates have to be, and then they, you know, without a lot of effort, they can't really understand, maybe drill down into specific areas. And I think now you'll be able to do that a lot more easily. So I can see business owners getting closer to data and then being able to drive bigger decisions based on kind of using AI within their business just a lot more naturally and a lot more in tune with the commercial agenda of that time.
And obviously AI is coming into more and more industries now. Like, from your kind of experience talking to customers, do you see some industries being like ahead of others in terms of their maturity of like their AI operations?
Well, I think data heavy ones are, but I think say like finance, for example, but I think people are going to maybe leapfrog a stage. So beforehand, you would have seen people kind of go into ML, and then they kind of now go into LLMs or Gen AI. We're seeing people who kind of maybe did a bit of rules based and never really hit the ML stage are now going to leapfrog and kind of go into the LLM stage. So I can actually see kind of small, medium, who can really see the efficiency gains, but weren't able to, let's say, hire a data science team and never really kind of thought about how they could operationalize that. Now it goes straight into AI, LLMs, Gen AI, and those type of tools. And yeah, I can see them taking huge advantage of that much more quicker than I can see enterprise go for it. So I think it's quite exciting. And I think we'll start to see it more in places like e-commerce. It's going to be huge. And already they're seeing it for product descriptions and SEO optimization. And I think, you know, as conversion rates are slipping for them and Meta's making it a bit trickier, I think actually you'll start to see them where can they make more cost efficiencies in their business, inventory control, chat, customer service, all those type of ones. I think they'll start to use AI a lot more readily because there's just a need, and those tools are kind of easier for them to grasp than maybe traditionally ML has been in the past.
And obviously, like, the industry as a whole is like evolving so rapidly. Like, when you're having kind of those internal discussions, like, how do you stay at the forefront of those new developments, and how are you making those decisions around, you know, what you incorporate into the platform, and what might be like a, you know, a buzzword for the next few months, but we don't think it's the right long-term sort of, you know, technology for us?
I know. I mean, it's such a tricky one because we have to go where the commercial kind of takes us, because we have to make money. So we took a round of funding, and we now essentially are bootstrapped. You know, we took that in 2018 and we've spent that. And so essentially now we have to go where the revenue goes. So sometimes where we see the value being, we're not able to necessarily commercialize that immediately. So we have to just put that on the back burner. So essentially it's us doing what, you know, good old you should do, is just understand where's the product market fit, what do people want, where can you guide them, can you show them something that can inspire them to go to the next level, and maybe what they tell you they want, you could then give them something else that they actually want. You know, you kind of work on that journey, but we kind of, in the back of our hands, we can see this idea of, you know, automating processes and how that can work. And so we can build our technology to make sure that we're future proof without necessarily having to expose that to a customer who doesn't really understand it at this moment. But we can then see where that could go. And so we're always trying to make sure that we kind of try and build across a kind of a future view than just the narrow, this customer's off for X. You know, should we build that? Should we not? We can try and keep our lens a bit broader, but definitely we are also impacted by where the revenue is. So sometimes we just got to build what they want.
Yeah, sure. And you mentioned that the company's been going for a little while, so kind of started traditional ML side, and then, you know, obviously nobody even kind of had LLMs on their lips at that point.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just thought it'd be interesting to understand like how you've kind of experienced that kind of shift from kind of traditional ML to more transformer based models. You know, have you seen a different type of person or kind of persona that you've been talking to, you know, as those years have passed?
Yeah, for sure. I think what we saw was, like, when we first launched, a lot of excitement about AI and people wanting to get into their business, and some people were set up kind of data ready and they could take advantage, and some people were just kind of quite lagging behind. And a lot of people just went into this kind of mode of data lakes and data warehouses, and they kind of over engineered the kind of data side of things at times, like without necessarily trying to think about what is the use case and should we start there, and then kind of work, you know, alongside, build up that kind of data profile. So where we saw success is people who kind of got that and kind of did that kind of in tandem with each other, and they kind of saw the most success. So people who got stuck in like data warehouses and things, you know, some of them got there and they were able to take advantage of it, and but some people kind of just got lost in that. And I think we saw kind of a trough of despair nearly. It's like they put all this investment in, they got all this resource, and then they weren't able to necessarily capitalize on it, either because they were stuck in data language, or they decided that GDPR was more important than understanding actually how they could apply AI in different spaces. So they kind of got wrapped up in, I'd say the conversation went a bit like, oh, there's AI again, and it wasn't as positive. Yeah. And then the LLMs came out, and suddenly there was like a euphoria about it. And interestingly, it was kind of the traditional ML sometimes had a better role to play because they wanted far more, I guess, structured outputs of how that would look, with a lot more rigor around how that, you know, the output would be consistent. And so then I was like, oh, and actually traditional machine learning is better for that use case. But it got AI back in the conversation of a positive light, and people were like, okay, no, actually I can see how this could use. And also just putting AI in the hands of a board, like they were able to interact with ChatGPT, and then they were like, oh, it just sparked so much more interest. And I think that was interesting, is like the conversation then got a lot higher up with a lot more budget and a lot more interest, versus it being like trying to be driven by maybe a data science team, or trying to be driven by a business owner who wasn't getting much traction with IT. And there was kind of always like this kind of, I don't know, it felt like it was kind of butting heads in like kind of 2020, 2021. It was like, you know, it was all, everyone's kind of going digital because of, you know, COVID, and it was like a different conversation. And then suddenly we kind of got ChatGPT, and it was like this excitement again. So I think all these ways all help the overall kind of broader AI agenda, I think.
So one of the things I think you kind of briefly touched on previously, but I just wanted to come back to, was talking around how people need kind of AI solutions which are technically advanced, but also kind of ethical and responsible. So how does Kortical support companies in that process of kind of the ethics and governance side of AI?
Yeah, I think, you know, every company has their own I would say kind of view, and I think we generally deal with people because we've got fully explainable models. I think we've naturally then gravitated towards people who want the full rigor that they feel they can get from being able to understand why AI made a decision. So I think we maybe have a bit more kind of nuanced view on that, insofar as we probably see the kind of I guess the side of it that can already got a viewpoint on it, maybe. But then, you know, we also have a big view on kind of data minimization, and, you know, we don't want to necessarily know anyone's name, or, you know, their actual address, or even their date of birth. Their age is fine. So we've got a view on how to help make sure that that is as compliant and as ethical as they can be. On the other side of it is, I think we can also kind of help with best practices across industries. So we've seen how tax do it, for example, how beauty do it, how finance do it. And so we've got an interesting view across kind of sectors that can help people give confidence. And then also when we talk to, like, we've got our own in-house data science team that can help do the servicing around us, that can build the models for people and can manage them end to end. So we've kind of got a good lens on how we deliver that and how we keep that compliant. And then the other side of it is when we're then dealing with the smaller companies, we've already kind of built in a lot of that. So we know that people want to be able to see what's going on with the models. They want to see the insights, they want to see the chat, they want to see summary reports, and all that we can deliver as well. So yeah, I guess we kind of help with the, I guess, visibility of what AI is doing, and to try and make people feel confident that the AI isn't doing something dodgy, and that they can really understand it and explain it with, you know, to their customers, which is really key.
And following on from like that ethics point, there's a kind of a debate, if you like, with regards to kind of auto ML, like how much of the AI development process should be human driven and how much of it should be automated. Like, what do you see the role being for kind of human oversight in the kind of future of kind of ML pipelines?
Yeah, I mean, I think validation is absolutely key for these things, because one is, you want to know what's going on, but two, like, does it actually really work on unseen data? And I think only humans can make those real decisions if it actually, especially if it matters. Like, you want to be checking, like we do it on like for marketing use cases, but I mean, you want it done for health. Like you want someone to sit there
Yeah.
and check, is that CAT scan and what they're saying actually right? And, where can we go? And so I think the validation step, I mean, until we really believe in these AI models and that we I think it's more, do we believe in the data that's been inputted? And what we find a lot of it is like human labeled data is not perfect. And so then it's like, you're going to have some inaccuracy. And so you only know that once you pump into a model. And then you're like, why did it say that wasn't right when, and then you look at the data and you're like, oh, because that's where it's been labeled, that's why it's been given. So I think until we've got full, I guess, confidence that the human created data isn't biased or isn't wrong, then I think we do need to have some oversight, and then we want to check it. So I think that's still a huge stage. And we always believe like we're like humans plus AI is the best combination. And although we create a lot of automation suites, we definitely want to give the power to the person to understand what's happening end to end. And that I think is where we have to always have an oversight of. I just don't think you should just put in some data that someone's checked. They'll tell you is amazing. We've used this for years, but it's always going to have some inaccuracies. Someone's like, inputted a field wrong, or they've just, had a bad day. It's just never going to be perfect. And so I think until that point, we just need to make sure we're oversight and we got it. So yes, I think humans and AI all the way, even although we have an AutoML platform. I believe in automation. I'm 100% in. You need to check it by humans.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we're talking about the kind of growing AI tech stack earlier, and I'm definitely seeing a lot of companies coming out in that kind of data quality, data governance for AI, and then also, as you mentioned, like lots of different solutions in terms of data labeling, like human data and synthetic data. So it's definitely an important part of the puzzle as well. I just wanted to move on to kind of finish the podcast talking around kind of your experience of kind of building a company and kind of growing a startup in the AI space. Like you talked a little bit at the beginning about being a UK company. There's a lot of talk with the new government in the UK trying to support tech industries. I just thought it'd be nice if you could talk a little bit about your experience of growing a tech company in the UK and how you found it kind of competing with the US companies in the space.
Yeah, I find the attitude is probably one of the hardest things to come over versus the US. They have a real gung-ho. They will accept that you could be a young startup and that you've got the chops to be able to deliver a solution within their business. And they don't seem to worry about it as much. Whereas in the UK, it's all kind of starts with risk and analysis, and it's just a lot of a different attitude of like they like legacy. And so it's been quite hard. We're getting there, but it is really hard to compete with the kind of US funded. They come over with a great kind of portfolio of companies, and we're just still trying to get ourselves going. So that's been quite tricky. What I am encouraged about is if the UK government start employing AI technologies, then it's going to become less of a thing, because it's like, oh, actually, if they figured out that it's safe, then it just creates a culture of AI solutions we find. So I'm quite encouraged by that. And also, like, you look at it, London, we work in Waterloo, and we can see House of Parliament, we can see the finance side, we can see also and our customers are all around us. We can get to them in a few minutes. It's like it should be the melting pot for absolute success. We've got the absolute talent, we've got educational around us, we've got amazing talent. So yeah, just kind of it feels like we should be able to fizz this up into something exciting, but it just has been a bit of a slog, I would say, versus the response you get to the States is, oh, that's amazing, let me introduce you to someone. Oh, that's great. Or in the UK, it's been like, oh, let me talk to my boss and I'll figure this out. And oh, I don't know, and just kind of silence. And it's like everyone's afraid to make a decision, so they just don't. It's like so that's kind of the hardest part of like, just tell me yes or no, it's fine. But there's a lot of people who are just still mulling it over 5 years ago. But yeah, it's just the way it goes here.
I think that's just sales, isn't it, really? It's like trying to get clear decisions. It can often be very tricky. I wanted to ask about how it feels to be a tech entrepreneur in the AI market right now, because you hear a lot of stories of people who kind of raise money and then they don't sleep for 6 months or 2 years because of all the stress. Is it always like that, or is it possible to build a startup and keep some semblance of work-life balance?
Yeah, I think, you have seasons where it is hell. And especially, you raise money, you build a team, trying to get the team together. You've got this kind of, runway that you can just see you're just about to fall off a cliff. You can't raise more cash. That is unbelievably stressful. Just even if you can take a weekend off, it's still in the back of your mind. So that is quite hard. Also, if you don't have a board, like someone on your board that you really like, that can be really stressful, as in like trying to bat strategy. We were kind of really lucky that we took on angel investment. We didn't take on VC. So we didn't have any of that pressure, I guess. And then also we were able to make decisions that we thought would be successful. But we were about to raise just before COVID, or just after COVID hit. Of course, we didn't. And actually, that was at the time we thought, oh my God, how are we going to survive? But it turns out like you can make it work. So I would say that starting a startup is about firefighting every day. Is you definitely just don't have enough resource or time in the day to get all done. But I do have children, so does Andy. So you can raise a family and start a business. It's just unbelievably, you're going to need help, but you can absolutely do it. And you can see your kids, and I can go to every school play and drama, and your time is within your own kind of construct. You might have to work late nights, but it's kind of a lot more exciting to do it for yourself and to just get a wage for showing up. So I would urge people that it can be done. I would say side hustle first. And then you don't necessarily need to take on VC money. That kind of what we hear in the States, you don't hear of the people who bootstrap and get themselves there and kind of, live off 10 million quid a year. I mean, they're hugely successful businesses. So yeah, I just think, figure it out as you go. But don't listen to like the kind of, startup bros that just slept on the couch eating noodles for, 2 years. And that's the only way to make it. There's different forms of success in starting your own business.
Do you have any kind of rules or like hacks that you employ? So when you go on holiday, you're not thinking about work and business, or when you're kind of, having dinner with your family in the evening, that you're kind of focused on them and not the possible emails that might be coming through?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the only hack I really have is I have an Apple Watch. So my kids don't see me look at my phone, but I can just see if that is something crazy urgent, or if that's something I need to jump on my laptop for. We work from home 2 days a week, and I try and pick up my kids 2 days a week and have dinner with them. And like, that's them. And then they kind of know that. And then they know that outside of that, I might not be available. But, I just say you just have to figure out what works for you. And like when they're really little, it was quite different to what they are now. Like they're 7 and 10, so you can have a conversation with them. You can bring them into the office on the days that you have an inset day and show them what mommy does. And it's a different, I think, vibe. It's great. Like this kind of idea of working from home a bit has been great for everyone, either if you're employed or not. So I think that's just had a great balance. I say that hack is to think about like future like Kortical or your future business, so that you set up processes from early on. So like the tools we use, they could scale with us. We didn't build a short-term mindset, and that just helps you not rack up tons of technical debt and mental debt. And so like you don't have that carrying around like, oh, how am I going to sort that out? Changing tools and changing processes is really hard as you get a bigger team. So think about yourself, and maybe if you've got a bit more effort in at the start, it's always worth it than just hacking stuff together and it'll breaking around you all the time. So that's the other famous one of everything should break all the time. It's like you've got really big clients who do things breaking. It's not a social network. You've got a different vibe. And I think some of the culture that's out there around startups is maybe a bit misleading for everyone. And it's just not every shoe kind of fits the same way. And you need to think about, are you in a trainer? Are you in, a flip flop? Like think about what your kind of role is to be and how you need to be set up to make that successful. And figure that out for yourself versus just watching the internet.
Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of round things off, like what's the next kind of major milestones for Kortical? Like what are you kind of working towards at the moment?
Yeah, so we are working on more in the car finance space and onboarding kind of clients around that. We are working more in the AI agent space, and kind of working with our current clients and new clients about how they can use that technology within their business to help gain productivity. Those are kind of the two biggest. And the other one is around a Shopify enabled chatbot called KChat. And that is just really aimed at fashion stores, and where we can do customer service and upselling, cross-selling of products. So you become like a personal shopper as well, and how we can make that work. On a really scalable sense. That's a real kind of, go to market, plug it in, download it on an app store, test it out and go, versus our enterprise sales, which is kind of the bread and butter of what we got at the moment.
Yeah, very different conversations, I'm sure. Well, it's been great having you on today, Barbara. If people want to get in touch, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. You'll find me Barbara Johnson, Kortical. Yeah, come find me on LinkedIn, and I would love to chat more.
Well, thank you for your time, and thank you to everybody else watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of AI People coming soon.